Hello and welcome to Flutterbrudder. I can't believe I just said that. But today we have something special. Not just a Fluttershy episode, but our favorite Wonderbolt daredevil Rainbow Dash joins forces with our favorite animal lover to help Fluttershy's brother move out of his parents' house and find a job. I always love to see the sisterly bond between Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash, especially with how well their differing personalities play off each other. I'm crossing my fingers that the writers will come through and give us another good Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash episode, but will Zephyr Breeze be the cut tire that sends the episode crashing into the wall? Or will he be a part of the strategy that makes Flutterbrudder a winner? Let's find out. I love this episode. From the funny moments with Zephyr Breeze to a strong message about not giving up after the first failure, Flutterbrudder brought me a lot of joy. Finally getting to see Fluttershy's parents after nearly 5.5 seasons was a special treat as well. Even though the main 6 are old enough to live on their own, it's nice to see them reconnect with their folks from time to time. And now that Fluttershy's parents have made an appearance, we've officially seen Twilight's parents, Rarity's parents, Pinky's parents, and Rainbow's dad all be in a flashback. I'd like to see Rainbow's mom and dad in a present-day setting, but what I'd most like to see, even though it'd be in a flashback, is Applejack's mom and dad. One of the strongest points of the episode is how assertive Fluttershy was. With her parents, it was obvious to see where her shyness came from, but it was really great to see her speak her mind to Zephyr and stand up for her parents who didn't want to break Zephyr's heart. To be honest, I was expecting Fluttershy to not lay down the law with her brother until much later in the episode, but having her do it early in the episode just shows how far she's come as a character since the show premiered, and it was such a great moment when she told Zephyr he could only stay at her cottage if he got a job first. Now, as for Zephyr, I really enjoyed this character. I liked how completely different he was from his parents and his big sister. A carbon copy of Fluttershy would have really ruined this episode since we've already gone through a shy pony who was afraid to speak up against something. This also gave Fluttershy a good challenge, not because Zephyr was a more outspoken pony, but because he's family. And family is the hardest thing to say no to or say something that will hurt their spirits. But that's not to say Zephyr didn't have any funny moments. The moment where Rainbow pointed out how early in the day it was to be napping had me rewind the episode to make sure I heard that right. When Rainbow Dash of all ponies says it might be too early in the day to sleep, you might want to listen up. And while normally I find it cringing when one character always acts like another character is attracted to them, I really enjoyed those moments between Zephyr and Rainbow. Her jaw-dropping and grossed out reactions were no doubt the best choice. And I loved how with each scene her rejections to his attractions to her kept building and building from just cringing faces to pushing him off a chair and finally to her zapping him with a cloud at the Wonderbolts Academy. I also have to give the writers a lot of credit for getting this sort of chemistry between Zephyr and Rainbow better than when they did it between Trenderhoof and Applejack during Simple Ways. At least here, Zephyr wasn't stalking Rainbow, and it wasn't uncomfortable to see their interactions at all since Rainbow constantly pushed him away, and Zephyr stopped right at that point. Now I know some people will more than likely call Zephyr a jerk for how he acted to his parents and Fluttershy when he arrived back home, and what he did to the cloud shed that Fluttershy's dad built. And you know, I agree with this belief. However, I could understand completely why he did it. Zephyr was just afraid of admitting he was scared of failing, so it was his way of forcing himself to stay at home. I'm not saying what Zephyr did was excusable for covering up his fear, but I understand why he was doing it. Fear of failing something is common, and everyone who suffers from it has different ways of dealing with it. Zephyr's way was just trying to force his old life to stay intact by trying so hard to stay at home with his and Fluttershy's parents, and excusing it as ways of finding his true calling. But here's where I loved Fluttershy the most in the whole episode. Her standing up for her parents right here was just a testament to how strong of a character she is. And as much as I'm not a fan of musicals, I will admit that the song near the end really caught me off guard, so much that it actually made me laugh, but the song really wasn't too memorable at all. However, the end scene was so touching to see Fluttershy so determined to help her brother succeed, and how happy they both were when Zephyr tried his hardest and it paid off at the end with his graduation from main therapy school. Touching family moments like that will always be one of my favorite things in movies, books, and TV shows. And it was actually more sweet than funny when Zephyr asked to stay at home for a few more days so he can look for the right job, and Fluttershy and Rainbow gave him the classic eye roll. The message in this episode is extremely strong, and it's one a lot of people can relate to. Failure is obviously disheartening, but you can't just let it get to you. You can't succeed without trying, and with trying, failure is a certainty. We just need to learn why we failed and use that new knowledge to avoid failure in the future. And giving up after one failure, especially after trying something for as little as a few weeks, is not good at all. Yeah, it sounds nice at first to go back to the life you're comfortable with, but you'll never really do anything. Rainbow Dash was the perfect one to tell that to Zephyr. She's tried for over 6 years to be a Wonderbolt, but she kept trying her heart out until her dream became reality. Not knowing what will happen is also scary, as Fluttershy pointed out, but you'll never know what you're capable of if quitting is your first answer. Heck, what if Rick Hendrick quit on Jeff Gordon after Gordon wrecked a lot of cars in his 1993 rookie season? Or what if Gordon decided to call it quits after a few races? He would never go on to be one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time and one of the most respected athletes in all of sports. So, my final thoughts? This episode was fantastic. Flutterbrudder was an episode that had pretty much everything you could ask for in a Fluttershy episode. Touching family and friendly moments, great little funny scenes between Fluttershy, Zephyr, and Rainbow Dash, a harsh slice of life lesson, a strong Fluttershy that was more assertive than we've ever seen her, and overcoming a fear which apparently is genetic in the Shy family, unlike speaking to animals. Not to mention, this episode had phenomenal pacing and a great second act, with Fluttershy trying her best to find Zephyr a job that ended up with him at his breaking point and admitting that he was afraid of failing. It was an episode that had a message that everyone can relate to and learn from. Flutterbrudder is easily a green flag episode and such a vast improvement over last week's episode. I would rank this as the 4th best episode of Season 6. However, what are your thoughts on Fluttershy's adventure with her brother? I'm Mr. Left Turn. I'll see you when I get back from the track.